Please join us today. This is episode 2 of Pandemic Gardening, Growing Vegetables Indoors. So please join us, and remember, share on Pinterest, Instagram, share and follow. We're gonna have several drawings for seeds and product giveaways from Morgan's Compost Dairy Dew products April 1st. So please join us. All right, I'd like to show you how I'm gonna make this 5-gallon bucket. I'm gonna repurpose this bucket into a lettuce planter. All right, stay tuned. First, we mark the bucket with a straight line down the center, and then I get out my Dremel tool. All right, she's now cut in half. And what I'll do is I'll position the two together, get them nice and tight, clean the plastic, and position them together. Joined it together with my Gorilla tape. I love this tape. I repaired my ice fishing shanty with it. Good stuff, what a bond. So I've joined the two buckets together. There you can see you have a planting trough. Now drill some holes in the bottom for drainage. There you go. There's my lettuce trough. I'm gonna plant this lettuce. We'll show you how to do that in a second. But what we're doing here is I repurposed that bucket. Actually, that bucket, you might say, well, Bubba, that was a $5 bucket from Home Depot. That's not a cheap way to go. Well, it is. I actually picked this up out of the road. It fell out of somebody's vehicle evidently, was bouncing around the middle of the road, and hey, I almost got hit by a UPS truck, but I saved the bucket. Recycle, repurpose, that's the way to go. The best way to recycle, don't use it or repurpose. Welcome to the grow room. What I want to show you is the lettuce. We're going to plant the lettuce, which is actually not a really fun task. As you can see, the seeds are just tiny. I have them in a 1/4 teaspoon, and there's dozens of them in here. All right, that's your lettuce seed. The nice thing about lettuce, one thing you know is lettuce needs light. It needs light to germinate, so this would be the perfect location to do it. My only question is, I'll show you, I made these little rows. I made little ruts in the dirt, 1 inch apart. If you read the instructions on the package, it usually gives you recommendations. This one says 1/8 inch deep, 28 days to harvest. I was really impressed with that, 28 days. And me and Mama Bubba, we got lettuce for our salad. So with our pandemic gardening, now this indoor gardening is all new to me. I've done a lot of outside gardening for years. If you're new to the channel, I've grown 2 state record pumpkins, 1,947 pound pumpkin, and I've grown a 2,043 pound pumpkin. All right, there's a couple of things. I've grown a United States record long gourd in 2014, and it's still a Michigan State record today. My biggest prize I've ever won is $7,000 on 1 giant pumpkin, just to give you some credentials if you're new to the channel. All right, but planting the lettuce, we'll get back to that. What I'm gonna do is take this right here and just gently bump a seed off every inch into this little trough that I made, little ditch. And it's gonna take a little bit of time to do this whole flat, but I wanna do that because I don't wanna just scatter the seed like grass seed. I could just throw it like I'm feeding the chickens and a bunch of it would come up, but this is gonna make it come up more uniform, and then it says 1 seed for every inch. It'll be a little heavier than that. And then what we'll do, once I get it all seeded, we'll speed up like last time. Okay, Mama Bubba's doing the taping today. I'm gonna grab my dome. Once I have this all seeded, I will place the dome over top. What this will do is it'll keep the soil from drying out. And remember, keep it a secret, but go tell a friend. Bubba's sharing pandemic gardening on YouTube. That will keep the moisture in there, keep it from drying out, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to come in here and dump water on them every day trying to love your plants. The biggest mistake people make germinating seeds is over-watering. We got the soil just right, where if you squeeze the soil, it sticks together, but there's not water ringing out of it. It's just moist enough to stick together. And that's what you want for germinating seeds. And then at that point, if you cover it like this, it shouldn't dry out. You should be fine for a few days. Worst case scenario, I'll come in with a spray bottle. I'll spray the surface with water occasionally, but I will not be dumping water on the seeds. All right, so that's lettuce. That's lettuce 101. Now let us show you some other things. Okay, last step on the lettuce. We are just going to take and just barely cover up the surface. It says an 1/8 inch deep, so you basically just want to get a little bit of dirt there. The seeds are in the trough, so we're just going to kind of like snowplow the surface. Snowplow the surface and get a little bit of dirt over the little ditches that I made, and then that should do it. They should ignite in a few days. It says 28 days to harvest. Now I kind of went a little thin on the lettuce seed. I didn't go super heavy. I mean, if you do go a little heavier, that's fine, because you can always just thin it out later. Always thin out your seedlings. But that's the hardest part for me in gardening, is when you thin down plants and you're thinking, oh, look at all these little seeds I wasted by thinning them. And that's also another mistake you don't want to make. You definitely want to thin them out, because if you don't thin them out per the instructions, then you're going to end up with them too tight, and you're not going to have a decent size harvest. They're going to choke each other out, like throwing down too much grass seed will just choke itself out. So I don't recommend going that way. But here's the containers I made that you want to get together. We got our containers together. We have drainage holes. We got repurposing. I want to be real big on the repurposing thing. Recycle, repurpose, that's the way to roll. I planted my little pumpkin boxes. It's Mama Bubba and Daddy Bubba. I got little, just so the soil doesn't dry out so much, I've got them covered up. I'm going to plant my beets and carrots. You stay tuned for the next videos, and I'll show you how we're going to care for these plants. One thing I'll show you today is the tomatoes. I love to do this with the tomatoes. I take and I float the tomato seeds in a bottle. Typically it will take 4 to 5 days, and the seeds will pop a root. You can look in there and see a popped root. But I've already noticed after 3 days, these are my Domingo. If you look, my Domingo 5.46 pound tomato, which was the 2020 Michigan State champion, I will receive a plaque and hopefully a check. So at the seminar, March 20th, here in Holly, they're going to have the Michigan seminar. Please join us if you can. You can get details at Michigan Giant Pumpkin Growers Club. They have a website, they have a Facebook page. Just search them up and you can get details. Join us at our March 20th spring seminar. And I'm sure as long as the governor doesn't shut things down, we'll be able to do that. And I'll tell you a little bit more. But anyways, the tomatoes, back to the tomato seeds. There they are floating there. I can't really show you that good of a close-up. But one of them has popped a root, baby. Popped a root. So what I'm going to do, I've got this Dairy Dew, and I'm going to spoon feed all these plants with Dairy Dew. Stay tuned through our pandemic series, and you can see all the different products. Seed Starter, Veggie 301, and Dairy Dew Compost. Many, many more products we'll be talking about. But right here, I've actually put Seed Starter in the center here. It's mostly Seed Starter. And what I'm going to do, the tomatoes are basically, I'm just going to dump this right out. And there was 3 or 4 seeds in there. They're still there. Let's see. And I'm basically just going to cover them up. A little bit of dirt. They don't need much. Tomato seeds don't need much at all. 1/8 of an inch. Just barely under the surface. And we're going to wait for germination on those. Those should be popping up within, well, stay tuned for the next video. You'll see. But this is my Domingo tomato, which grew my state champion last year, as I said. What I'm going to do, I'm going to let this plant grow up, and I'm going to let it produce 1 to 3 pound Domingos. Domingos are a beefsteak tomato, and they will grow beautiful beefsteaks. You can let them grow singles, or you can choose a double or triples, or you can go with the Mega Blossom. The worm, if I link this back to my video, the worm, which ended up being 5.46 pounds, as I mentioned, that was a Mega Blossom. But you don't have to grow that way. You can do the singles and the doubles. So get more into the tomatoes. Those are great for eating. You could can them. They're great. They slice, nice big Domingo tomato. You can slice to put on a slice of bread. You people that like those big beefsteaks, that's what the Domingos are all about. So I want to touch base with that. We're going to show you some more on the seed starting. Stay tuned. future videos. And the green pepper, I want to tell you, last video we were talking about the green pepper. She's starting to flower out. And one thing I've learned about the green peppers is that I knew this before, but I learned something new, that the red peppers, which are left on the plant for a couple more weeks, those red peppers have the most nutrients. They have vitamin B6, they have antioxidants, they're great for rheumatoid arthritis. The red peppers are the best nutrition-wise. So we're gonna let the green pepper grow out. We're gonna start our seeds. What you might wanna start thinking about is choosing your containers for your soil. If you wanna reuse, repurpose, that's the way I recommend with the 5-gallon bucket. And then also lighting. We're using this year, I'm using a very hot light. This is actually a metal halide. That's a $250 bulb in there. It creates a lot of heat. So because of that, I've actually shut off the heat register in the room. And I'm gonna try to keep it cool enough in here that we can grow lettuce. If not, that may be the challenge. And I invite all of you, if you have indoor gardening experience, please share in the comments your suggestions. I may have to go to my buddy Brent Toth at the Dairy Do Dealer in Fenton, Michigan. I'm going to show you, he's at Torrey Road right by US 23, and Brent sells all the Dairy Do products, and he also does custom lighting. He makes custom lighting. This isn't one of them, this is an example I'm going to show you. This is a Honeywell light, but he does LED lighting, and I may have to switch. If this light's too hot in here, I may have to switch to some LEDs or some fluorescent lights. But what I want to tell everybody is read the instructions, talk to your manufacturers, whatever grow light you choose for your grow room, make sure, and this is why I go to mom and pop shops, I don't really buy online. I want to deal with a person who's got experience and knowledge. And I find that with like Dan at Columbus Irrigation in Ohio, for your drip tape supplies, call Dan. Dan is knowledgeable, he'll give you service. You won't find that on a lot of these websites. The person taking the orders knows very little about growing. But here's your lights. If you got a metal halide, you're going to be 2 foot above your plant. If you have fluorescent or LED lighting, LED lighting could still be quite a distance, but ask the manufacturer, what's the recommended distance? Your fluorescent tubes are typically hung right above the plant. Your fluorescent lighting could be really close to the plant. So when people ask me that question, hey Bubba, how far should my light be from the plant? I usually have to come back and say, what kind of light you got? So buy your products where you can get service. I highly recommend that. When you buy online, sometimes you don't get that. All right, I'm rambling on, but hey, let's get our pandemic gardening going. Stay tuned for the next videos. We're gonna do our radishes, carrots, our spinach, and we'll have more pointers and tips. All right.